All right, so we're diving into Second Chronicles today. You guys wanted the full deep dive, and with this summary, we're working from, well, let's just say we've got our work cut out for us. Like, how do you fit a whole kingdom's worth of drama into just a few minutes, right?
Yeah, that's quite a challenge. But that's kind of the fun of it, isn't it? Second Chronicles, I mean, it's just packed with stuff, and I think it's a book that people kind of skim over sometimes.
Totally. They see all those names and think, oh no, not another genealogy. But they're missing out. There's so much more to it. It's not just like a history textbook or something.
Right. It's a story, a really, really good story.
Exactly. And every good story needs, well, a good starting point. So Solomon, I mean, come on, it's a name everyone knows. The temple, the wisdom, all that jazz.
Yeah, Solomon's a pretty big deal in this book. You know, building the temple in Jerusalem, that was like the event of his reign. But it wasn't just some fancy construction project.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Like, why was this such a big deal for them? I mean, they had the tabernacle before, right? So what was so special about the temple?
Well, think about it this way. For the Israelites, the temple wasn't just a building, it was a symbol. The place where heaven and earth kind of met, where God's presence dwelt among his people. It was central to their faith, to their whole identity as a nation.
I see. So building, it wasn't just about bricks and mortar. It was about their relationship with God.
Exactly. It was a physical manifestation of their covenant with God.
Wow. Okay, so Solomon builds this incredible temple. Everything's great. And then what? What happens next?
Well, that's where things get a little complicated. Solomon's son Rehoboam comes to power, and let's just say he doesn't exactly follow in his father's footsteps, and that leads
Okay.
to
The kingdom splits.
yeah.
We've got Israel in the north and Judah in the south. And from there, it's like, well, it's a bit of a roller coaster ride.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And you know what's interesting? Second Chronicles really focuses in on Judah, the southern kingdom. Why do you think that is?
Hmm. Good question. Well, I know that the line of David, the kings who are supposed to be ancestors of the Messiah, they ruled in Judah, right? So maybe that's why. It's like the author's saying, okay, this is the line we need to pay attention to.
You got it. It's all about setting the stage for what's to come. And it's fascinating because you see all these kings in Judah, some who are good, some who are bad, some who are just, well, terrible. It really highlights how important leadership is, doesn't it?
Totally. It's like you can really see the impact a king's choices had, not just on his own life, but on the whole nation. Like Hezekiah, he was a good one, right?
Right.
All about getting rid of those idols and cleaning up the temple.
Yeah, Hezekiah was a reformer. And those reforms weren't just about like outward appearances. Remember, each time a king brought back idols, it wasn't just a personal choice. It was pulling the entire nation away from their covenant with God.
Oh, I get it. So when he got rid of those idols and rededicated the temple, it was like a huge spiritual reset for everyone. A
Uh-huh.
big deal.
Exactly. And then you have kings who did the opposite. They led the people astray, and that always led to trouble.
Yeah. And it's like, even when things were going well, there was always this temptation to, I don't know, to kind of forget God and go their own way. It's like this constant back and forth between obedience and rebellion.
It really is. And that's where the prophets come in, right? You've got these incredible figures like Elijah and Elisha. They weren't afraid to call out the kings, even when it was dangerous.
Wow. Can you imagine walking up to a king and saying, hey, you're doing it all wrong? That takes some guts.
Yeah, they were pretty bold. But they were also speaking God's truth, reminding the kings and the people about their covenant and what it meant to live in faithfulness.
It makes you think about the times we live in now, too, doesn't it? Like, are we listening to the voices of truth even when they're challenging?
That's a great point. It's easy to get caught up in the moment, to forget about the bigger picture. But Second Chronicles reminds us that our choices have consequences, both individually and collectively.
Yeah. And, reading about the kings who made those bad choices and seeing how it all led to the exile, it's pretty sobering.
It is. The destruction of both Israel and Judah, the exile of their people. It's a stark reminder of what happens when we turn away from God.
It's heavy stuff.
Yeah.
But there's that glimmer of hope at the end, right?
Yeah.
The return from exile, the rebuilding of the temple. It's like a fresh start.
It is. It shows that God is always faithful, even when we're not. And that even when things seem hopeless, there's always the possibility for restoration.
That's a powerful message. So we've gone from Solomon's glory days to the kingdom splitting, all the ups and downs with the kings, the prophets speaking truth to power, the exile, and finally that return and rebuilding. What a journey. Second Chronicles, it's more than just a list of names and dates. It's a story about faith, about leadership, about consequences, and ultimately about God's unwavering love for his people. What stands out to you from all of that? What's something that really made you think?
It's really that cyclical nature of it all that gets me. The constant turning away from God, the consequences that follow, the
Yeah.
repentance, the restoration, and then starting the whole cycle over again. It's like as humans, we never seem to learn. But thankfully, God's mercy and love are also cyclical. They never end.
That's so true. And that gives me hope, even when looking at the messes we make. Well, folks, there you have it. Our Second Chronicles deep dive. It's just a taste of what this book has to offer, though. If anything we talked about today sparked your interest, I encourage you to dive in and explore it further. Trust me, you won't regret it.
Absolutely. There are so many amazing stories and insights to be discovered. Happy reading.
And hey, if you've got any thoughts or questions about Second Chronicles, let us know in the comments. We love hearing from you guys. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring.